My name is Marilyn Aguirre-Molina. I am on the faculty of the City University of New York. I'm a professor of public health, and in addition, I teach in the School of Public Health at the City University and at the Graduate Center. And I also direct, and I'm founding, I direct the CUNY Institute for Health Equity, which is an applied research institute that works very closely with communities across the city.
What role has the Latino caucus played in your work professional development?
How much time do we have? Because it's been incredible. Actually, I was at, this is the 40th anniversary of the caucus, and I was there in those very early days, and actually I was very blessed because the person who brought me to the caucus, or to the beginning of the caucus, was Helen Rodriguez-Trias, who is really an icon in our community now. Who has passed away, unfortunately, but she brought me to my very first APHA meeting, and at that meeting, before there was a caucus, she was saying some people are meeting to talk about Latino issues and what they did to Cesar Chavez. And what they did to Cesar Chavez was that a major hero in our community was invited to speak at APHA, and at that time, it was almost a falta de respeto beyond, because they put him in this tiny little room with just a few people, and that was almost the issue that stimulated the need for a caucus, just not only for within APHA, because clearly APHA, the most important Latino, not excuse me, the most important and significant public health organization in the country, did not have a presence of Latinos on boards or committees, and then for that incident with Cesar Chavez, it was like all the energy and the synergy you needed for the caucus to become. Anyway, your question was, well, how is it different? That was my first introduction to APHA. I learned leadership there. I learned the system of APHA, and through that I became very involved in meetings, committees across APHA, and then was elected to the executive board. So that it was a major career ladder for me that I don't think I would have had an opportunity, because it really shaped who I am. It was almost transformational, if I can use that word.
How did you get to where you are today? And please tell us a little bit about your background and what inspired your career as a Latina in public health.
It's how did I get here? It's when I look back and I say, I don't know, the universe was kind, it's conspired or something, because it was an opportunity. I think it was Helen Rodriguez, I keep referring to her. She was a mentor, she was a friend, and she was my daughter's pediatrician. I mean, she was just an incredible woman. And through her, we would have these study groups weekly in somebody's house, really talking about public health issues and so forth and so on. And it was there that the fire in the belly, as they say, was ignited for me, because I realized public health is not like medicine, it's not like nursing, it's not like social work. It's about looking at the environment in which people live and cause them to either be well or not well, cause them to have good quality of life. And it's not about blaming the individual. That's not what public health is. It's looking to see how did that individual get there. And all of that came about, again, as I said, I was very, very lucky. We would have incredibly prominent people in New York City to come to these study groups. And that's what formed my thinking. The caucus was important in forming my understanding of being engaged in a large organization and trying to make change there. But then these study groups helped me really grow and expand my knowledge base and my insight about what we could do in public health for Latinos.
So next question is, were there any stumbling blocks along the way?
I call them challenges. The major challenges that I encountered first and foremost was being the only one. I can go back and look at all of the jobs that I've had and find myself the only one, and that being the only Latina in an environment that was really not always responsive to, I will be candid about it. I was at the Robert Johnson Foundation, which was probably the best professional experience with respect to growth and professionalism, but it was me. It was really a lot of type A people working there, men mostly and women, and it was a challenge to not lose who I am, what my values are, my identity, yet still work in that environment and be productive. I think that's the challenge that so many Latinos face when they get into these so-called fairly prestigious environments, if you want to call it that. They then become so engaged, so absorbed, so assimilated that they become part of a problem. And in the work that I've done, I've seen a lot of Latinos, not a lot, but enough to make sort of an impression, get into these environments and they just, they become part of the enemy almost, They become people who are not sensitive, who do not bring those issues forward in a productive way that you can make change, But so the challenge, as I said a minute ago, was being the only one and holding on to my values, to who I am, where I came from, because I did not come from privilege, trust me, like everybody in the room around me came from, So that's a big challenge, and it continues to be a challenge because in many of the arenas that I've been, like even the Institute of Medicine, I was on a panel there, and it was me and them, me and the rest of the I guess the general population. But you can't, gotta think about it. How do I bring these issues in a way that I'm not seen as the angry brown woman, because that's another way that we get characterized. But so it's been a lot of challenges and lots of opportunities too. So keeping a balance.
What advice would you give to a Latina student interested in a career in public health, and what do you wish someone had told you when you were early in your career?
I have to say that if I had any privileges in life, it was really from the beginning having exposure to a group of people in public health in New York City. It was a time when the race consciousness movement was significant, ethnic consciousness movement, and are struggling with why are Latinos so in such poor condition. And just the dynamic of those issues brought a bunch of really good people together. As I said, Helen Rodriguez is one of them. And I was just a kid when I learned, and I went to these meetings, and I saw people who were there at these meetings who had read their writings in my School of Public Health, but when I thought, oh my God, these are real people. So that was my very first, and that understanding public health and understanding social justice said to me that public health is the vehicle for me. I'll tell you, I got a scholarship to go to NYU to the School of Social Work, and then I got a scholarship to Columbia to go to public health. And I thought about it because there was no other way that I was ever going to be able to pay for that kind of tuition. And I said, do I want to mess around with people's heads, or do I want to mess around with this environments that cause people to not be well? Environments went up. So that's kind of where I've been looking at poverty and looking at what causes poverty and looking at issues of food equity and and housing. Those are the social determinants of health which have driven me to and my work.
So what are some of the soft skills that you believe researchers need to advance in their careers?
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you what my bias is right now. I think you absolutely have to have rigorous, competent research skills. It's not negotiable. You got to have, you got to know how to work with all the programs. You have to know how to do the analysis and so forth and so on. Not negotiable. Not like in the old days where you could go in and scream and say, this is a problem, and I know because I know. That's gone. And that's, first of all, some just basic skills where you won't be dismissed because the quality of what you're doing is just questionable. The second thing I think is important is that, and I see this happen a lot, again, to young faculty, is that they completely skew and start doing research to publish. For work to sit in some isolated library that a select few will do. The research that I do and have always done has been applied research. Knowledge for change. How do you use what we learned to make things different? How do you use what we learned to create a photo op to bring noise, make noise, like that Jennifer Lopez song is, I think, right? Let's make noise. I don't know, probably. Anyway, you can cut that out of this. But that's what I tell researchers. Knowledge generation is only as good as it's used. Because if you're to sit in libraries, to me, I devalue them. But that's my value. That's my personal way of looking at it. And there's no reason why you can't do that kind of research, because at the Institute we have faculty who are doing that kind of research to go to libraries and journals, at the same time using that to go to communities and do translation of that research so that they see, so that's what that means for me on my daily basis. So applied research, get good skills so you don't get blown away and thrown out of a journal, but also use that to make change.
And last question.
Okay, I'm sorry, these questions my answers are longer than probably need to, but.
What is different about public health research in the career compared to other types of research in their careers?
Well, I've been going back to this, I think, a couple times. I think public health research is the one vehicle or the avenue for social change and for social justice and and the public health ethic, which is basically, we understand the factors that surround people that make them well or not, the economic, the political, racism, all those things. We understand those variables, those factors, to be significant players in causing disease and disability. And public health is about that, So for me, I could give you examples of what we do, but we don't have that much time. But even if it's doing an analysis of what's in vending machines at a college that's a day hop, it's a day hop school, it's filled with garbage and junk. And when that's the only meal that you have after you've been at work all day is a vending machine, that has to change. It seems insignificant, but for us it's an issue when you're working with urban poor or students who are not, well-resourced, that we need to change what's in there, because even if they're going to run in and get that, it better be better quality food. So that's it. So we do the research on what's in there and what's the blah, 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 and then we figure out, well, how can we change that? So.